There was something strangely peaceful about staring at an empty wall. No music. No voices. Just silence and the grainy texture of old wallpaper catching the light through half-closed blinds. I must have been sitting there for 10, maybe 15 minutes after closing the message. The one she sent. Short. Final. No punctuation. We're not working. I'm sorry. The apology felt like an echo, like something pre-recorded. I don't blame her. Maybe I never really connected the way she wanted me to. I'm not the best at feelings. I think about things more than I say them, and maybe that was the problem. My phone buzzed. Yo, you still breathing? Check your messages. You're gonna want this one. My roommate. Loud, dramatic, and somehow always dragging me into whatever new distraction he found. I sighed and opened the link he'd sent. Full dive MMORPG. Elysium Verge launches today, and neural sync ready. Choose your path in a world that mirrors you. A fully immersive game. Neural injection. No controller. No screen. Your mind goes in and your avatar reflects your real-world traits. Reflexes, intelligence, even attention span. A world that mirrors you. I didn't reply. I just clicked download. Initializing neural sync. Welcome user, Ren Kisaragi. Scanning cognitive signature, reflex load, and perceptual profile. Error. Data pathway anomaly detected. I blinked in the dark. Or thought I did. My body wasn't really here anymore. This was the injection stage, where your consciousness detached from the body and passed through the gate. A vast black void opened in all directions, scattered with drifting particles of light like distant stars. Correction. Classification resolved. Assigning origin zone. Lucio Village. Class selected. Phantom Wraith hidden. Wait, what? Before I could process it, the particles around me surged inward, wrapping my body in streaks of silver mist. I didn't choose that class. I hadn't even reached the selection menu. Is this part of the tutorial? No answer came. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on a cobblestone path surrounded by early morning fog. Trees swayed slowly in the distance, their branches covered in silver leaves that rustled like whispers. The village was quiet, just a handful of stone houses, wooden signposts, and lanterns swaying on black iron hooks. A low bell rang somewhere far off, and a chill brushed the back of my neck. My hand moved instinctively to my side. Twin short blades rested there, barely visible. Their design was minimal, no glow, no ornament. Slick, efficient, quiet. I pulled up my status window. Name RK. Class, Phantom Wraith. Level, 1. Title, none. Affiliation, none. Stat sync, 97%. Loadout, Phantom Blade / Residual Echo. So it wasn't a bug after all. Phantom Wraith, huh? I remembered hearing online that the system assigned classes based on reflexive traits and mental inclination. Maybe something in me, my desire to disappear, to go unnoticed, somehow qualified me for this? No one else in the forums had mentioned this class. That either meant it was ultra-rare, or a complete system glitch. Either way, I wasn't complaining. The village of Lucio was peaceful. NPCs moved around slowly, carrying baskets, tending animals, or cleaning stalls that sold basic gear. The realism was uncanny. When I passed a small inn, I could smell boiled herbs and smoke from the hearth. Somewhere nearby, someone was hammering metal. Dogs barked in the distance. I walked along the edge of the town, stopping at a wooden fence that overlooked the valley. Sunlight began to creep through the fog, casting long shadows down the hills. I took a breath and smiled. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about the message, or about her, or about anything I had to be. I was just here. The system chimed softly in my ear. Quest available, basic training, speak to Instructor Kale at the practice field. Guess that's my cue. Instructor Kale was a broad-shouldered NPC with silver armor and a scar running down his neck. His eyes flicked over me. You're new, he said. But you've got something unusual in your aura. I froze. He couldn't be referring to my class. Could he? No matter, he added, shaking his head. Everyone starts somewhere. You want to hold a blade? Show me you can move. The training was simple. 5 practice dummies, time strikes, basic evasion drills. My real-world martial arts practice kicked in, and the system must have noticed. Combat flow bonus detected. Adjusting monster AI behavior. I wiped sweat from my brow. Or thought I did. The motion was instinctive, and even though my real body was lying in bed somewhere, the feeling was so real it made me pause. I wasn't just playing this game. I was in it. Kale gave a rare nod of approval. You move like someone who's been fighting shadows for a long time. Not sure how to answer that. Quest complete. Basic training. Reward, +1 level, +1 stealth skills, +1 residual echo upgrade. Level 2 already? I looked up at the sky. The sun was climbing now, bright and soft across the fields. I didn't know where this game would take me. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted a place where I didn't have to think about what I'd lost. And maybe, without meaning to, I'd found something else entirely. The trees beyond Lucille swayed in silence, their trunks pale and smooth like stone worn down by wind. Dew clung to the underbrush. I stepped off the beaten path, blades sheathed at my side, watching the terrain shift beneath the sunlight as the fog began to lift. No monsters yet. Just the sound of boots pressing softly into dirt, and the occasional flicker of birds overhead, little shadows darting between branches. I'd accepted a side quest from a vendor just before leaving the village. Scout the eastern ridge for signs of wild beasts. A simple task. But the reward wasn't what interested me. I needed space to test something. Residual echo. The skill I'd unlocked after completing Kale's training. It didn't come with a flashy animation. No damage stats. Just a vague description in the skill menu. Leave behind a fading echo of your presence. May confuse, scout, or distract, depending on the user's intent. It had a 10-second cooldown. I crouched in the brush and activated the skill. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a translucent version of myself shimmered into view 2 meters ahead, crouched, still, like a reflection made of wind and dust. After 3 seconds, it faded. So it wasn't an attack. It was a shadow. A ghost of movement. Could I use it to scout without being noticed? Trick enemies? Create fake paths? I paced slowly, reactivating the skill every few meters. Each time, the echo appeared a bit differently. Sometimes it mimicked my posture. Sometimes it flickered ahead before vanishing entirely. Adaptive. That was rare for a skill in a beginner zone. The ridge curved upward into a mossy slope, where broken stone markers peeked out from overgrown ferns. An old trail maybe. Something the developers left for flavor. At the top was a clearing. And in the clearing, a forgotten shrine. Half collapsed, draped in vines, with blackened wood pillars sunk into the earth like old bones. Crows circled above. There were no quest markers here. No glowing NPCs or floating icons. But something felt off. I approached slowly. The air grew colder. The music, the soft orchestral hum that usually filled the world, went quiet. Then I heard it. "Can you hear me?" I froze. Not a player voice. Not even a typical NPC line. It sounded stitched, part whisper, part static, woven into the fabric of the world. Like something the game itself had forgotten to delete. Hidden trigger discovered. Shrine of the Hollow Path. Quest activated? No level requirements. No quest description. Just a blinking symbol in the corner of my UI. I turned away from the shrine. This wasn't part of the Ridge scouting quest. It wasn't even in the guide Aaron had shown me earlier. Part of me wanted to walk away. I wasn't in this game to go chasing glitches. I just wanted to play quietly at my own pace. But another part of me, the part that spent too many nights awake wondering what would have happened if I'd said more, felt more, couldn't ignore a mystery when it whispered directly to me. I stepped inside. The shrine interior was dark. Shadows pooled in the corners like spilled ink. Dust motes drifted through the beams of broken sunlight leaking in through the collapsed roof. A small stone altar stood at the center, cracked down the middle. I knelt beside it. There was something etched into the floor, a symbol I didn't recognize. A circular glyph made of curved lines, intersecting diagonals, and a central dot. Suddenly, my echo activated on its own. I didn't press anything. My body blurred, and an afterimage peeled off from me, standing motionless in front of the altar. Then the system chimed again. Skill updated. Residual echo layer I. Effect. Echo may now interact with certain hidden objects or rituals. I blinked. No combat. No dialogue trees. Just presence. Intent. Curiosity. This class wasn't about power. It was about perception. I stood in the silence, watching the echo dissolve in front of the altar. And then the voice came again. You see more than you admit. That's why you were chosen. I opened my mouth, but no words came. There was no one to answer. Only the echo of myself, vanishing. A sudden ping shook the silence. Private message, Aaron. Yo Ren. I just logged in. I'm in Lucille. Wanna meet up? I got that quest with the big rabbit boss LOL. I stared at the message. Aaron was probably running around, waving a sword twice his size, annoying every NPC in sight. Part of me wanted to message back immediately. Another part of me hesitated. I looked back at the shrine, back at the empty space where my echo had stood. Then I replied, "I'll catch up in a bit. Just exploring." Solo again? Bro, you're gonna end up on some hidden leaderboard or something. XD. I smiled faintly. Maybe. But for now I needed space. Not to prove anything. Just to understand what this class, and this world, was trying to tell me. Lucille Village felt different after the shrine. Maybe it was just me. The people, the houses, the way the shadows stretched across the stone paths at midday, it was all the same. But when you walk alone with something unspoken in your inventory, the world starts to feel like it knows. I stood in front of the quest board, arms folded. The shrine quest still blinked at the edge of my UI. No description. No destination. Just a passive presence now, like something waiting. I pushed it aside and opened the list of available quests. Wolf Trouble near the South Forest, 300 EX, solo capable. Simple. Plain. Physical. Just what I needed. The South Forest was less misty than the Northern Trail but thicker with trees. The sunlight filtered through a canopy of shifting gold, dappled across the mossy ground. Birds chirped faintly, and every once in a while, a gust of wind rustled the leaves like distant applause. The game's realism didn't stop with visuals. Even now, I could hear my own breath if I focused. The light crunch of soil beneath each step. The tightness in my leg muscles when I crouched behind a log to scan for movement. Wolves. 3 of them. They prowled a narrow clearing up ahead, 2 grays and a larger alpha with white fur streaked in black. Their heads lowered, noses twitching. I tested residual echo. My form peeled off and shimmered past a nearby rock, drawing the attention of one wolf immediately. It growled and padded forward, confused. The alpha didn't take the bait. Smart. I exhaled slowly, pulled both blades free. No glow. No flare. Just cold metal and silence. I stepped out of the brush. Combat in Elysium Verge wasn't just reaction time, it was pattern recognition. Real movement, body tension, posture shifts. If I twitched too early, they'd counter. If I overcommit, they'd flank. The first wolf lunged. I sidestepped. Blade struck low, carving across its legs. The second wolf came from behind. I dropped to a crouch, slashed in an arc, then rolled toward the echo I had just placed. The alpha charged. Its fangs flashed, but passed right through me. Phantom drift, passive trigger, 2% phase. I didn't even know that was a thing. My body flickered, absorbing the hit as the alpha's momentum carried it forward. I spun behind it and drove both blades into its back. Wolf pack defeated. Level up, level 3 achieved. New skill unlocked. Veil step I, become partially translucent and undetectable for 1.5 seconds when standing still. I stood there in the clearing, panting. Not from fatigue, from excitement. The fight wasn't flashy. It wasn't heroic, but it felt good. Sure. Plain. Like I was getting better without even realizing it. The game saw how I moved and adapted the class to me. Veil step wasn't a button I mashed. It was something I had earned by standing still under pressure. That felt rare. As I made my way back toward Lucille, the party message popped up again. Party invite, Aaron Daigo. Message, dude, where are you, LMAO? We just beat a giant squirrel that dropped an axe the size of a fridge. I smirked. That sounded like them. I hit decline. Not because I didn't want to see them. Just, not yet. Too much noise. I wanted to stay in this space between motion and stillness a little longer. Later, back at the village, I heard 2 players chatting near the fountain. Yeah, he didn't even party up. Took out the whole field quest solo. Really? What class? Dunno. But his movement's weird. Like not flashy. Just, gone and back again. Like a ghost. I kept walking. No need to explain. No need to correct them. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted to disappear for a while, and see what happened when I stopped trying to be noticed. Evenings in Lucille Village were different. Not quieter, just softer. Like the world held its breath between sunlight and moonrise. Lanterns cast long glows onto the stone roads, flickering gently in the low wind. The trees surrounding the village swayed like they were listening. I sat on a bench near the smithy, scrolling through my menu. Materials collected. Wolf fangs X6. Tattered fur X3. Fragmented bone, uncommon. X1. Most of it was junk, but I wasn't in a rush to sell. The crafting system in Elysium Verge wasn't just select recipe click craft. It had nuance. Element affinity, success conditions, memory tracking, Like the game wanted you to remember how it felt to create something. I tried combining 2 fangs and the bone fragment. The crafting spark flickered, then dimmed. Failure. Again, I muttered. On the second try the window chimed faintly. Crafted, Fang dagger, tier 0.5. Lightweight blade with minor bleed chance. I held it in my hand. The curve was uneven. Stats weren't impressive. Still it was mine. Not dropped, not looted. Made. And weirdly, that felt good. After stashing the dagger in my inventory, I left the village center and walked uphill, past the farms and stone fences, toward the cliffs that overlooked the forest. The fog returned as it always did around dusk, thin, ethereal, as if it remembered something the players had forgotten. I stood at the edge and watched the sun dip below the treeline. Then behind me I heard footsteps. Soft. Hesitant. Not an enemy. I turned. A girl stood a few meters back in white and green robes, holding a staff too large for her frame. Her hair shimmered faintly under the sky's fading color, silver gray with a hint of lilac. Her posture was a bit awkward, like she wasn't used to being alone in open spaces. She noticed me then looked away quickly. Sorry? I didn't know anyone else came up here. Her voice was calm. Not shy, just still. It's open space, I said. You can stay. She nodded once and stepped forward slowly, stopping a little distance from where I stood. Nice view, I added. She didn't answer immediately. Then, I come here to think. The village feels loud sometimes. I raised an eyebrow. It's one of the quietest zones in the game. She glanced at me with a half smile. I meant people. Fair. We stood in silence a while longer. She didn't ask about my class, or my gear, or what quests I was doing. It was strange, really. Most players led with that. May, she said finally. That's my name. Ren. She looked down at the grass. You don't look like a beginner. I glanced at my worn cloak, the twin blade strapped loosely to my back. I guess I'm figuring things out. She didn't press. Just nodded again. There was something restful about her presence. Like the kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. After a minute, she spoke again. Most people rush. They treat the game like it's a sprint. But this place, it moves slower. I looked back at the trees. The fog, the moon, the quiet shimmer of light over the rooftops. Yeah, I said. That's why I'm here. We parted without ceremony. No friend request. No party invite. Just a nod. It wasn't until I was walking back into Lucille that I checked the local chat for the first time all day. LFG. Anyone else seeing a weird solo player outside the wolf zones? Moves like a glitch or something. Guild rumor. Someone triggered a hidden class? Could be dev bait. No name ID. Just disappears. I closed the window. Didn't smile. Didn't worry. Just let the fog settle behind me as I walked. Sometimes you can tell when a game wasn't just designed, it was felt. Lucille's southern plains looked unremarkable on the map. Soft hills, low cliffs, scattered monsters. But walking through them was different. The grass shifted in layers under the wind. Distant ruins peeked out from half-buried soil. Birds circled overhead in flocks that moved like brush strokes across the sky. I wasn't thinking about experience points. I was watching the way my shadow bent over a moss-covered boulder, how the system's light engine made the leaves flicker slightly when I passed under them. This place felt alive in ways that went beyond code. The quest was simple. Collect medicinal herbs near the ridge line. I accepted it mostly for the walk. Halfway through, I spotted movement along a crooked path. Not a monster, too upright. An NPC in a tattered robe stood beside a withered tree, holding a wooden staff that was cracked down the middle. No quest marker. No interaction symbol. Just there. Curious, I approached. His head turned before I even spoke. You walk with silence that should not exist, he said. I paused. What? He stepped forward. His eyes were glazed over but focused, as if seeing something deeper than the visual layer. You echo. Not like sound. Like memory. I opened my menu. No quest triggered. No log update. But my class info shimmered faintly at the edge of my vision. Echo layer. Awakened presence detected. Was this part of the world, scripted? I asked quietly. The NPC gave no answer. Only a final line. They buried the order in fog. But some shadows still know how to walk. Then he turned, stepped off the path, and faded. No death animation. No despawn effect. Just gone. Back in Lucille, I stood near the river, letting the breeze brush across my avatar's face. I didn't care about lore drops. I wasn't a theorist or a streamer or a guide writer. But Something about this class wasn't just rare. It was abandoned. That's different. My private message pinged. Aaron Arke. Yo. Dungeon run tonight. Me Daigo and one healer. Beginner tier. 3 floors. Wanna come? I stared at the message for a while. I wasn't great at group content. Not because I lacked the skill, just timing. Energy. Words. I typed. I'll think about it. Aaron responded instantly. We're starting in 15. I'll take that as a yes. I sighed. Then smiled just a little. Back at the village gate, Aaron was already bouncing in place, his dual sword strapped across his back like antennas. You showed up. I knew you couldn't resist. Daigo stood beside him, big and solid in his heavy armor, arms crossed like a statue. And next to them, May. She gave a small wave. Hi. You're the healer? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Aaron laughed. Small world, right? May met my eyes. You said no party invites. I figured you'd change your mind when the world stopped being quiet. I said nothing, but I stepped forward. Party request, Aaron Daigo May Arke. Dungeon selected, Hollow Bloom Cavern, Tier 1. The gate shimmered. A low wind passed. And for the first time since I logged into this game, I wasn't walking forward alone. The dungeon gate shimmered like fog caught in crystal. One step forward and the world blinked, reality folding in on itself. Trees vanished. Sky dimmed. Then silence. We arrived in a cavern of pale stone, ceiling low, slick with dew. Luminescent vines curled across the walls, glowing with faint purple light. The air was wet and sweet, thick with the scent of wildflowers rotting just past bloom. Dungeon instance, Hollow Bloom Cavern, party of 4. Objective, clear all 3 floors. Defeat the Spore Mother. Okay, Aaron said, drawing his blades. Frontlines me and Daigo. Ren, you do your ninja ghost thing. May, call if you need backup. Got it, she replied softly. I didn't speak, just nodded and moved toward the side path. The first room was easy. 3 bloomlings, vine-covered creatures with bulbous heads and lurching limbs. Aaron dove in with his usual chaos, whirling twin swords like a dance. Daigo followed, shield up, taking hits without flinching. I moved through the shadows, letting residual echo glide forward first, baiting an enemy out of cover. A perfect decoy. The moment it lunged, I flicked behind it, striking both blades into its back. Bloomling defeated. Plus 15 EXP. The team didn't comment. They were too focused. But I noticed May's healing light always found me a beat too early. Like she knew where I'd be before I moved. The second floor narrowed into a tunnel. Roots crisscrossed the path, and spores filled the air like drifting embers. One false move and the whole chamber would ignite into poison. Traps, Daigo muttered. I'll test the path. No, I said. Let me. The others paused. I crouched low, activating Veil Step. My form faded into translucent smoke. I stepped gently over the roots, each motion slow, measured. Shadows dripped from the ceiling. My echo peeled forward, floating weightlessly toward a spore pod hidden in the dark. When it triggered, it burst, harmlessly in the echo's wake. That's insanely useful, Aaron muttered. We gotta get you some better gear, man. May looked at me quietly. Her eyes weren't surprised, just calm. You're not like the others, she said. I wasn't sure if she meant players, or something else. By the time we reached the 3rd floor, we were quiet. Not tense, just focused. The air had changed. The flowers here weren't glowing anymore. They pulsed, slowly, like they were breathing. At the center of the chamber was the boss, a massive fungal creature rooted in the stone, petals spread like a monstrous bloom. Its eyes were hollow, black, waiting. Boss engaged, Spore Mother, Tier 1. Same plan, Aaron said, tightening his grip. We kite the ads. Daigo tanks the heavy hits. Ren. I know. I was already gone. My echo darted wide. The Spore Mother roared, spraying clouds of toxin. May raised her staff and sent cleansing light across the battlefield. Daigo slammed into the boss. Aaron danced through the mobs, blades flashing silver in the dim light. Then, the boss turned its head. Toward me. I hadn't attacked yet. But it saw me. Somehow. And for a moment, its mouth twitched into something like a smile. Warning, glitched reaction. Class identifier, Phantom Wraith, triggered. Behavioral override, modified attack pattern, unstable AI signature detected. What the? I whispered. The Spore Mother shrieked. Vines lashed out only toward me. Its entire AI behavior shifted mid-fight. Ren, move! Aaron shouted. I dropped backward, blades raised. The vines chased my echo and missed, then doubled back toward me violently fast. Veil step. Side roll. Echo swap. I moved like breath through a reed. Each strike barely missed. Each motion closer to a rhythm I didn't know I knew. Then May's voice cut through. Draw it to the central bloom. Now. I didn't question. I ran. The spore mother followed, straight over a patch of glowing roots. Aaron dropped a trap. Boom. The explosion tore through the vines, burning the bloom and staggering the boss. Daigo charged in, shield glowing. Aaron leapt, and I followed. Together we cut the spore mother down. It collapsed with a wet gasp, its petals crumbling into ash. Dungeon cleared, hollow bloom cavern. Loot acquired, echo blossom unique, rootblade shard x2 healer's sash. Rin has earned the hidden title, touched by the forgotten layer. The others read the message aloud. Oh, Rin. You good? I stared at the notification. It faded before I could inspect it. I'm fine, I said. It wasn't a lie. But I didn't feel like explaining either. Outside the dungeon, we stood at the gate in the fading light. That was awesome, Aaron said. You really saved our asses in there. May looked at me for a long second. You didn't trigger that, she said. But it knew you. I met her eyes. Maybe I've just been here longer than I realized. She smiled. Not with humor. Just understanding. That night, I returned to the cliffside overlooking Lucille. The fog drifted slow and steady, like a curtain falling over the world. My class wasn't just rare. It was remembered by things that shouldn't have memory. And the further I went, the more it felt like something had been waiting for me here all along. Lucille was brighter the next day. Not in temperature, not in light, but in energy. Players moved in clusters down the cobblestone streets, laughing, gesturing, comparing loot. Vendors shouted out crafted goods, their voices carried on the wind with the scent of grilled fish and sweetbread. I stood near the town center, not really part of anything, just watching. I wasn't tired from the dungeon. I just felt full, like my mind needed to stretch before it could move again. The hidden title still echoed in my thoughts, touched by the forgotten layer. No guide had it listed. No player seemed to notice it except the system itself. And yet, the moment the message appeared, I felt it, like dust shaken off an old book that remembered your name. I spent the afternoon circling the town's small market zone. Not buying, just observing. There was a swordsman comparing cooldowns between curved sabers. A group of crafters debating potion mechanics. Two beastkin players laughed over their failed attempt at taming a rabbit mount. Everything felt strangely real. Even failure had texture here. I stopped at a forge vendor, eyeing the stat modifiers on mid-tier cloaks. Something light, the blacksmith NPC asked. I didn't answer, just scrolled the menus in silence. Eventually, I left without buying. Near the river that cut through Lucille's west end, I sat on a bench shaded by overhanging trees. The wind smelled faintly of mint and river moss. Footsteps approached. I didn't need to turn. Is it okay if I sit? May asked. I nodded. She sat beside me, keeping a quiet space between us. Her staff rested across her lap, and her posture, like always, was a little off. Not nervous, just thoughtful, like she was always halfway in a dream. You didn't talk much yesterday, she said softly. I didn't need to. She smiled faintly. Most players do. We let the silence linger. Eventually I asked, you always party with Aaron and Daigo? Sometimes. They're loud but kind. I nodded. They are. Her fingers brushed the edge of her robe. Your class, she said, it doesn't act like a class. It moves like instinct. I looked at her. And you? I chose healing because it doesn't require killing. I wanted to be here, not just win here. She looked out over the river. There are people who think this game is too real, that it's dangerous. But I think it's just honest. Honest. That word sat with me. I stood slowly, brushing my fingers across the edge of my cloak. I'll see you around, I said. May didn't move, just nodded. That night I returned to my room in the inn. The walls were bare, the floor clean, the light from the lantern above flickering faintly. I opened my inventory. Echo Blossom, unique drop. A petal from something that remembers you. No description. No use button. But when I dragged it into my hand, something happened. The room darkened. Not black, just dimmed like dusk falling inside a memory. And in front of me, my echo appeared. It didn't move. It didn't mimic me. It stood there perfectly still, facing me. Then it tilted its head. Just slightly. As if listening. I reached toward it, and it dissolved, petal by petal like falling ash. The light returned. No message. No reward. Just that moment. I lay back on the bed, eyes to the ceiling, hands behind my head. Somewhere outside, other players were leveling, crafting, winning. I wasn't sure what I was doing anymore. But I didn't need to know. I was here. And that was enough. The woods west of Lucio weren't listed in the main zone guide. No quests. No dungeon entrances. No loot tables. Just a stretch of dark pines leaning over a pale stream, with narrow dirt trails winding between them like forgotten veins. I'd heard rumors, a few threads on player forums about rare herb spawns or strange map anomalies, but no confirmations. Aaron called it the useless zone with cool fog. Which honestly sounded perfect. The morning was gray. Clouds hung low, folding the world into soft shades of silver. The pine needles crackled faintly beneath my boots. Mist drifted just above the forest floor, clinging to rocks and tree roots like something too stubborn to leave. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to walk. I passed a ruined fence half swallowed by ivy. A dead scarecrow leaned in the grass nearby, its straw limbs tangled with old equipment, a rusted blade, a cracked helm. None of it lootable. All of it placed, as if someone had been here long ago and failed quietly. As I crouched to inspect a patch of mushrooms, something changed. The sound. The wind no longer rustled evenly. There was a break, a pause, then a faint crunch. Not mine. Someone else was here. I stood slowly and activated residual echo. The image of myself shimmered to my left, drawing no reaction. But then I noticed something ahead. A set of footprints, barely visible, pressed into the damp soil between two stones. Not NPC. The spacing was too exact. Whoever it was had walked through here, just minutes ago. I followed. The path led to a hollow between trees. A circular stone platform lay half buried in moss, its edges carved with old, unreadable runes. In the center, a single player stood, motionless, arms folded, face hidden beneath a porcelain mask. They wore light leather armor, dyed dark blue, and a single long dagger rested against their hip. I stepped into the clearing. The player tilted their head. Not hostile. Not surprised. Phantom Wraith, they said softly. I froze. How do you know that? They didn't answer. Instead, they took a step forward and opened a private message. Player? Ark. There haven't been any of you online in 4 server cycles. Not since the rollback patch. I stared at the text. Rollback patch. 4 cycles ago. That would have been months before launch. Are you a dev? They shook their head. Another message. No. Just a leftover. Then they drew their blade. Challenge request, friendly duel, terms. No death, no loot loss, observation mode enabled. I accepted. The duel began in silence. No countdown. No audience. Just fog curling between us and the sound of wind in pine branches. They moved first, fast, low to the ground, dagger glinting once before vanishing. I slid left, dropped to a crouch, and let my echo drift opposite. Their blade struck my echo cleanly, then they vanished, reappearing behind me in a blur. I spun, crossed both blades, and parried. The force pushed me back 2 steps. You're good, I muttered. Their next message appeared instantly. So are you. But you're not used to it yet. The duel continued. It wasn't flashy. No fireballs. No arena walls. Just 2 players moving like shadows through fog, dodging, reading, testing. When the match ended, neither of us was below half HP. Duel concluded, no winner. They sheathed their dagger and turned away. One final message appeared. The class chooses those who disappear for a reason. The more quiet you are, the louder it gets. Then they vanished. No logout message. No teleport flash. Just gone. I stood alone in the mist, breathing hard. Not from exhaustion. From understanding. Somewhere out there, others had this class once. Before the reset. Before the world was stable. Now I had it. Not because I was meant to, but because I'd walked into the silence willingly. As I left the clearing, I paused to look back. The footprints were already fading in the fog. The Lucio post station sat just north of the inn, nestled between the tannery and an abandoned pottery stall. It was small, barely more than a hut with 2 windows and a sleepy NPC named Alan who chewed straw and blinked slowly whenever you approached. Got something for you? He mumbled as I walked up. A soft chime sounded in my interface. New mail received from May. I opened it. Subject, none. Message. You fought quietly yesterday. I think this game was made for people like you. That was it. No attachments. No emojis. Just that. I reread it. Not because I didn't understand, but because something in the words lingered. Like the aftertaste of a thought you weren't finished having. I closed the message and accepted a quest from the local bounty board. Hunt. Forest drakes, 6 targets, ridge south of Lucille. Note, caution advised. Horned drakes use pincer tactics. I wasn't worried, but I was curious. The echo skill had been evolving, changing without command. After the duel with the masked rogue, something felt different. As if my class was learning me, not the other way around. The Drake Ridge was steep and layered with sharp rocks. Thin trails zigzagged across the slope, marked by claw scrapes and broken shrub branches. I crouched low, scanning the field. 3 drakes visible. The others, not yet. Residual echo went first, an image of me sprinting into the clearing. 1 drake broke formation and chased it. The others held. Smart. I moved in silence. Every step a study in control. Every breath a measured choice. I didn't think. I didn't speak. And something answered. Passive skill unlocked. Phantom reverb I. When undetected, your body records motion echoes. Release them with delayed action for dual strike. I felt it in my shoulders first. Attention held, a rhythm stored. As I darted forward, my body moved, and then a heartbeat later moved again. Like my past self caught up. 2 slashes overlapping. 1 real. 1 remembered. The drake shrieked, staggering. Its mate lunged in response, but I vanished into veil step, slipping just enough into the translucent layer that the claws missed by inches. I moved through the clearing like wind through a tunnel. Not fast, just precise. By the time the 6th drake fell, my blades were clean. No damage taken. No skill flares. No grand finish. Just quiet motion in a world that was starting to hum with rhythm. Back in Lucille, I stood by the river again, watching the clouds drift across the surface like pulled cotton. I opened the mail a second time. You fought quietly yesterday. That line settled in my chest. No one had ever said that to me before. Not you fought well. Not you're strong. Just quiet. But in this world, maybe that was strength. The field boss was nothing special. A moss-covered golem with a broken crown and 1 glowing eye, stuck in a canyon west of Lucille. Its swings were slow, predictable, more bark than bite. But it dropped rare herbs and low-level guilds swarmed to tag it every few hours. I wasn't trying to take it. I just happened to be there first. It took 7 minutes. No party. No callouts. Just clean movement, silent attacks, and a final echo-assisted strike that split the golem down the middle. Field boss defeated, crownless earthward. Reward, Jade Sap plus EXP plus contribution, unclaimed. As the loot settled, a group of players appeared from the ridge. Their leader, a lance user in red and bronze named Garen, raised a hand. Hey, that was clean. I said nothing. He stepped closer, weapon lowered. You soloed that? Respect. We're from Guild Halberd. We scout solo talent in beginner zones. I recognized the guild name, small, respectable, heavy on melee. Mostly mid-rankers trying to make a name. You hiding your class? He asked. Or is that Phantom Blade or something? I didn't answer. He took that as a yes. No pressure, man. Just saying, we could use someone like you. We've got crafting circles, dungeon teams, gear sync. I'm not looking for a guild. He blinked, then smiled a little awkwardly. No problem. If you change your mind, check your invites. He waved once and walked off. I stood there long after they were gone. My echo flickered beside me, unprompted. Just hovering, watching. Not a skill, a presence. Like the game itself had started to mirror not just my movements, but my moments of choice. That evening, I returned to Lucille's upper ridge, a quiet stretch above the main town where cherry trees bloomed year-round. The petals didn't fall unless you stood still long enough. I sat on the stone wall, feet hanging over the edge, watching the sun fall between the clouds. Footsteps behind me. Light. Familiar. Is this spot taken? May asked. I shook my head. She climbed up beside me, resting her staff on her lap. The wind carried a few petals past our shoulders. You said before that you came here to escape something. I didn't respond. Not directly. But she waited. Eventually I said, it's quiet here. You don't have to explain yourself in quiet. May nodded once. Then after a pause, can I ask something? Her eyes stayed on the clouds. What's your real name? I hesitated. She looked at me, not expectantly but gently. Like the answer mattered less than the fact that she'd asked. Ren? She repeated it once, softly. Ren? It was the first time I'd heard it said aloud in this world. Not a username. Not a title. Just my name. And strangely, it didn't feel like something lost anymore. System notice. Title updated. Touched by the forgotten layer. Echo of the self. This title cannot be seen by other players. We sat in silence as the wind moved around us. Not awkward. Not romantic. Just two people with their feet in the clouds, learning how to be present. And for the first time since I logged in, I didn't feel like I was just passing through. The field boss was nothing special. A moss-covered golem with a broken crown and one glowing eye, stuck in a canyon west of Lucille. Its swings were slow. Predictable. More bark than bite. But it dropped rare herbs and low-level guilds swarmed to tag it every few hours. I wasn't trying to take it. I just happened to be there first. It took 7 minutes. No party. No callouts. Just clean movement, silent attacks, and a final echo-assisted strike that split the golem down the middle. Field boss defeated, crownless earthward. Reward, Jade Sap plus EXP plus contribution, unclaimed. As the loot settled, a group of players appeared from the ridge. Their leader, a lance user in red and bronze named Garen, raised a hand. Hey, that was clean. I said nothing. He stepped closer, weapon lowered. You soloed that? Respect. We're from Guild Halberd. We scout solo talent in beginner zones. I recognized the guild name, small, respectable, heavy on melee. Mostly mid-rankers trying to make a name. You hiding your class? He asked. Or is that Phantom Blade or something? I didn't answer. He took that as a yes. No pressure, man. Just saying, we could use someone like you. We've got crafting circles, dungeon teams, gear sync. I'm not looking for a guild. He blinked, then smiled a little awkwardly. No problem. If you change your mind, check your invites. He waved once and walked off. I stood there long after they were gone. My echo flickered beside me, unprompted. Just hovering. Watching. Not a skill. A presence. Like the game itself had started to mirror not just my movements, but my moments of choice. That evening, I returned to Lucille's upper ridge, a quiet stretch above the main town where cherry trees bloomed year-round. The petals didn't fall unless you stood still long enough. I sat on the stone wall, feet hanging over the edge, watching the sun fall between the clouds. Footsteps behind me. What? Familiar. Is this spot taken? May asked. I shook my head. She climbed up beside me, resting her staff on her lap. The wind carried a few petals past our shoulders. You said before that you came here to escape something. I didn't respond. Not directly. But she waited. Eventually I said, it's quiet here. You don't have to explain yourself in quiet. May nodded once. Then after a pause, can I ask something? Her eyes stayed on the clouds. What's your real name? I hesitated. She looked at me, not expectantly but gently. Like the answer mattered less than the fact that she'd asked. Ren? She repeated it once, softly. Ren? It was the first time I'd heard it said aloud in this world. Not a username. Not a title. Just my name. And strangely, it didn't feel like something lost anymore. System notice. Title updated. Touched by the forgotten layer. Echo of the self. This title cannot be seen by other players. We sat in silence as the wind moved around us. Not awkward. Not romantic. Just two people with their feet in the clouds, learning how to be present. And for the first time since I logged in, I didn't feel like I was just passing through. The quest was simple. A village child had seen glowing eyes in the cliffs. Ghost wolves, they said. Probably just light-bound variants of the ridge beasts. Basic hunt. Low tier. Easy loot. But it was the last sentence in the quest description that caught my eye. No records exist of this den before last week's sync. Strange. Zones didn't just appear in Elysium Verge. The world was persistent. Seamless. Unless it wasn't. The cliffs near the base of Lucille were steep and slick with moss. Fog coiled tightly here, hugging the trees, winding between roots like fingers searching for something dropped long ago. The den wasn't marked. But I found it. A low crevice in the rock wall, half covered by ferns. A soft, pulsing blue light flickered inside, barely visible. I crouched. Waited. Then stepped through. The space opened into a hollow glade surrounded by tall rock, entirely walled off by cliffs. The ceiling above wasn't sky, it was fog, dense and slow-moving like a ceiling of breath. The ground was soft, covered in pale grass that shimmered like glass dust. And at the center, an NPC. Robe, barefoot. He faced the cliff wall, one hand resting against the stone. He spoke without turning. You carry a class with no anchor. And yet you walk upright. I didn't answer. The system hadn't triggered any dialogue prompts. No quest activation. No AI tags. This wasn't scripted. At least, not anymore. The NPC's voice was gentle. Cracked like stone softened by water. They took the names away but not the memories. The fog holds them. It always remembers. Then he turned. His eyes were covered with cloth. But I knew he could see me. Not visually. But like something inside him recognized something inside me. You are not the first, he said. But you may be the last. Then he lifted his hand. The fog reacted, not with wind or sound but with stillness. A total pause. A freezing of every moving part of the glade. System sync. Phantom layer fragment detected. Updating class. Echo of the self partial resonance layer active. New passive acquired. Memory drift eye. Passive skill that alters enemy aggro when standing still. Chance to become unmarked. Then the old man faded. Not instantly. Not digitally. He walked backward into the stone. And vanished. Back in town I noticed something. The child who gave the quest? Gone. The quest board? No longer listed the mission. Even Aaron, when I brought it up, blinked like I was making it up. Ghost wolves? What ghost wolves? That's not in the beginner cycle, bro. I didn't argue. I just walked away. That night I sat on the bench outside the inn. The sky was clear. But something inside me was clouded. Like the fog from the glade hadn't quite left. Like it had followed me, not physically but as presence. I checked my class window again. The new passive sat there. Real. Functional. But my level hadn't changed. No EXP. No reward. Just knowledge. And the weight that came with it. Somewhere beyond Lucille, the world was bigger than I'd assumed. Not just graphically. Not just in content. But in intention. The game wasn't just tracking progress. It was remembering who noticed. The first time it happened, I thought it was a glitch. A shopkeeper looked straight through me. Eyes tracking over my shoulder. Voice lines idle looping. Not until I moved did he react. Like I'd popped into existence mid-sentence. "Ah, welcome back," he said. "Looking for cloaks again?" I hadn't been here in 2 days. The second time was stranger. A ridge hound patrolling the cliffs walked past me at full speed, nose to the ground. I didn't move. Didn't activate veil step. I just stood still. Its red targeting line flickered once. Then faded. I turned to watch it disappear into the trees. Unbothered. Unaware. I tested it more. Stood in town squares, unmoving for full minutes. NPCs walked around me. Low-tier mobs lost tracking the moment I stopped mid-combat. Even players, once or twice, ran right by me when I paused at dungeon gates or under archways. The system wasn't glitching. It was listening. Memory drift, passive. When still, presence suppression increases. Entity detection reduced to near zero. It wasn't stealth. It was forgetting. Like the game itself untagged me from its memory. And the longer I stayed still, the more it felt like I was forgetting something too. My private messages chimed. Mayarke. There's a festival tonight in Lucille. Fireworks. A cooking contest. You don't have to stay long. I just thought maybe you'd like to be noticed for once. I stared at the words for a long time. Be noticed. I didn't realize how long it had been since someone last said my name aloud. The festival square near Lucille's main inn was strung with paper lanterns. Red, white, gold, fluttering softly in the breeze. NPC vendors called out food specials and event rewards. Players milled through, laughing, trying emotes, tossing coins at game booths. A few danced on a raised wooden stage, clapping to an in-game loop of shamisen and wind chimes. I didn't know what to do, but May found me first. "You came," she said. I nodded. Wasn't sure if the fog let you out. I almost smiled. "It doesn't follow me here." She handed me something, a skewer of grilled mushrooms drizzled in sauce. Slightly overcooked, she admitted, but edible. I took a bite. Was good. We stood beside a fountain while the fireworks prepared above. The noise didn't bother me. Not tonight. A few players walked by talking. One paused, frowning. Wait, was someone just there? They looked around, shrugged, moved on. May glanced at me. Your skill? Probably. You don't like being seen. I'm used to being invisible. This is different. She tilted her head slightly. Then stopped holding still. The words weren't a challenge. They were a kindness. She was right. I'd let the silence settle so long, I forgot what it meant to be part of something without hiding in the stillness. The fireworks went up in scattered bursts, white trails blooming into slow-falling blossoms. No dramatic colors. Just soft, pulsing light against the deep blue skybox. For a moment, no one said anything. The festival shimmered around us like a held breath. And I stood there beside someone who knew my name. Not my title. Not my class. Just the me. I couldn't sleep. Not that I needed to. The in-bed was a placeholder, a background thread meant to simulate rest. But my thoughts stayed awake. Not heavy. Just moving. The festival had settled something in me. Not fixed it. But like fog after rain, the shape of things was a little clearer. I sat up and opened my class window. The usual menu bloomed open. Residual echo, veil step, phantom reverb, memory drift. But this time there was something else. An icon. Barely visible. Faint. It flickered at the corner of the interface like an old cursor on a dead screen. Unlabeled. When I tapped it, the screen dimmed. Not visually. Internally. And then, do you remember how to walk without being known? A voice. Mel. Not system generic. Too human. Too sad. It wasn't spoken. It appeared like a memory someone else left behind. I checked the logs. No record. But a new line glowed softly beneath my skill tree. Hidden branch, forgotten pathway, progress, 0%. No stats. No requirements. Just a new prompt. Follow the silence beyond where the music ends. I left the inn and walked to the forest's edge. Lucio slept behind me. Lights dimmed, players logged off or resting, the air tinged with leftover lantern smoke. The game's soundtrack faded, slowly, layer by layer, until I was alone in wind and footfall. The prompt wasn't a quest. No map marker. No hint. Just instinct. I headed west, beyond the old fence line, deeper than the standard wolf zone. The music did not return. Instead, the air thinned. Not in pressure, but in presence. Trees blurred at the edges, like someone had smeared the textures with a soft brush. Then the canyon appeared. Sharp rocks jutting from both sides, rising into darkness. A narrow trail led downward, bordered by nothing. No monsters. No items. Just a clearing at the bottom. I stood there, uncertain. Then the whisper returned. You are not glitched. You are remembered differently. Path activated, first layer. The screen pulsed once, then faded. No EXP. No skill upgrade. Just a notification that didn't sit in my log. You have chosen to be seen by what remains. I climbed back up the canyon. The sky hadn't changed. Lucio still glowed in the distance. The trees whispered in code I didn't know how to read. But something in the silence felt warmer now. Not welcoming. Not safe. Just listening. The graveyard wasn't even listed as a quest zone. Just a flavor area. Somewhere the devs added for lore flavor. A row of stone markers near Lucille's edge, with fog that rolled and two cleanly and statues that didn't serve any crafting function. Most players walked by it without stopping. I walked into it. The air was still. Fog curled around headstones with no names. The trees surrounding the graveyard creaked in wind I couldn't feel. The sky was dimmer here, but not because of weather. It felt aged. Like the light had given up trying to shine here. I wasn't looking for anything. But something was already waiting. He sat on a bench between two statues, hands resting on a cane, head tilted downward as if in sleep. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed his face. His coat was long and dark, patched in places that flickered slightly, like stitched code. An NPC. No marker. No spark. He lifted his head as I approached. And without prompt, he said, "Hello, Ren." I stopped. The name hadn't come from my player ID. It hadn't come from my title. Just them. As if he'd known it before the game had. "Do I know you?" I asked. He smiled gently. "No. But someone did." His eyes, gray, soft, and too human, settled on me. "You stepped past the place the music forgets. That means you've been remembered." I opened my menu. No quest. No interaction. Nothing. I looked back at him. "You're not part of a storyline, are you?" "No more than you are." I sat down beside him. We didn't speak for a while. The wind passed through the grave markers like fingers on water. Then he said something else. "Don't run from the quiet. That's where your footsteps echo loudest." When I stood to leave, he didn't move. Didn't fade. Just lowered his head again. The system pinged softly. Hidden layer progression. 2/7. Title fragment unlocked. The one who was named. System note. Layer 2 remembers. I closed the message. Walked past the statues. Past the fog. Back toward the light of Lucio. And with each step, a strange ache grew behind my eyes, not pain. Not fear. Just memory. But I didn't know whose. That night, I sat by the river again, watching the water ripple under soft starlight. I opened May's old message. Just a look. You fought quietly yesterday. I wondered if she would say the same now. And for the first time I realized, I wasn't sure if I still moved the same way. It started with a notification. System alert, Lucio departure phase active. Players level 10 plus will be assigned to next settlement, or release gate. No flashing alarms. No sudden music. Just a quiet nudge. Lucio was no longer enough. I met Aaron near the fountain. He wore a new cloak, flashy red with gold trim, and grinned like someone who just rolled a rare drop. So, looks like we're moving up in the world. Or moving on, I said. He laughed. Same thing. Daigo joined a few minutes later. May arrived last, walking silently through the crowd, her presence like the afterthought of a breeze. We didn't party up. Just stood there for people who'd spent their early levels side by side in different ways. I'm heading out tonight, Aaron said. Guild wants to scout the Oralise crafting district. Daigo adjusted his gear. There's a PvP ring that opens up once we cross into Tier 2 towns. Should be fun. They looked at me. You coming? Aaron asked. Eventually. They knew better than to press. Later, I found May near the forest edge. She didn't say anything at first. We just walked. The same trail we'd both wandered so many times, where wolves once hid and mist rolled in like folded paper. The trees were quiet. Even the wind felt slower here, like it didn't want to leave either. Do you think it'll be different? She asked. Everything is. She smiled faintly. I mean us. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because I did. We reached the overlook one last time. The view of Lucio was clear. No fog, no clouds. Just rooftops and soft blue sky. I'm not good at long messages, May said. So I probably won't send many. That's okay. But if you find something important, I hope you tell someone. Even if it's not me. I nodded once. That was her way of saying don't vanish. She turned to go. Then stopped. Ren? Her voice was different this time. Not soft. Not shy. Just certain. Don't let silence choose for you. Then she walked down the trail. And I stayed at the top. That night, I stood on the inn's rooftop. The stars shimmered overhead, faintly distorted by the world's atmospheric rendering. I opened my menu one last time before departure. The class panel shimmered softly. No new icons. No quest. But a single message blinked. Title updated, The One Who Walks Unnamed Roads. Description, he did not choose a path. He walked one. I closed the menu, took a breath, and stepped off the roof into the darkness below. The world waited. The air changed before the walls came into view. Not physically. The temperature was the same. The wind moved the same. But the presence around me, it pulsed. More players. More layers. More noise. Oralise Gate wasn't built for peace. It was built for ambition. The gates loomed 30 feet high, carved from obsidian and lined with embedded sigils that pulsed blue and red as players passed through. City guards stood at the sides, decorative more than functional. Their armor gleamed, but their expressions were blank. Scripts mostly. The game didn't waste high-tier AI on gatekeepers. I stepped through, and the world exploded. Voices everywhere. Not shouting, just stacked. Dialogue bubbles, trade offers, guild recruiters waving banners and showing off combat footage. A beastkin player leapt onto a bench and transformed midair into a glowing panther, earning applause from a nearby crowd. I kept moving. Down narrower streets. Past the noise. To the quieter veins of the city where not everything demanded attention. The market was massive. Split into 4 sections: armor, weapons, alchemy, and specializations. Each corner had its own crafting square, where players set up tents and summoned forge circles or herbal tables. Smoke rose from magical burners. Stat buffs were baked into pastries, bottled into vials, etched into steel. I stopped at a cloak vendor and quietly browsed. Lightweight? Stealth type. The player running the stall asked, eyeing my empty slot. I nodded. She showed me a worn gray fabric embroidered with silver lines. Silent thread. No animation trails. I bought it. Didn't haggle. Didn't explain. Just slipped it on and disappeared into the crowd. Near the east end of the city, I found the skill registry hall. A round chamber filled with glowing tomes that floated between pedestals. Players walked from book to book, unlocking techniques tied to their classes. Firebrand spells, soulguard chants, duelist combo trees. I checked the terminal. My class wasn't listed. Not even as a blank. I backed out. Night fell faster here. The city lights didn't dim. They changed color, rotating between warm gold and pulsing cyan. Or at least never truly slept. But I needed air. I moved away from the core, down into the underlayers, where the stones hadn't been polished and the map grew sketchy. Near the base of the eastern wall, beneath a forgotten colonnade, I found it. A door. Not wooden. Not locked. Just closed. No markings. No interface prompt. But when I stood before it, the fog from Lucio curled faintly at my feet, and something in the air shifted. Unlisted structure detected, phantom layer residue present. Resonance available, echo thread recognition enabled. I didn't touch the door, but it opened, just a crack. And from the space beyond I heard a sound like my own footstep played back in reverse. I stepped back. The door closed silently. No system message. No log entry. Just a new line beneath my class tag. The city knows you're here. I walked back through Orly's. Not quickly. Not aimlessly. Just present. And as I passed one of the central fountains, a group of players moved aside without realizing why. They didn't see me, but something in them still noticed. And for now that was enough. The door didn't open this time. It woke. When I stepped near, the stone didn't shift. It breathed. Not with sound. With intent. I raised no weapon. I didn't activate a skill. Still, the world responded. The crack widened. And I walked through. The air was colder beyond the threshold. Not ice cold, empty cold. Like something had been here once and left without packing its warmth. Stone columns stretched outward, wider than the room should have allowed. Dim blue lines etched into the floor pulsed every few seconds. No labels, no runes. Just presence. At first I thought it was a dungeon. But there were no enemies. No quest triggers. Just fragments. Glitches maybe. Echoes. I passed the first one near a collapsed altar. A silhouette stood there. Featureless like a ghost rendered out of memory, thin, translucent, posture slightly bowed. It didn't move. But as I approached, it whispered. I should have told her. Then faded. No interaction. Just that line, heavy and unresolved. The next one stood in the center of the chamber, arms raised like it had once cast magic. It spoke as well. They said I had too much control. That I made the game remember me. It laughed. A single note. Then vanished. By the third echo I stopped walking. Not from fear. But recognition. The way they spoke, it wasn't scripted. These weren't NPCs. They were players. Or what was left of them. Not deleted. Not logged out. Just remembered wrong. My own echo peeled off without command. It moved ahead of me. Then paused. Turned. Faced me. And watched. Not like a mirror. More like a warning. At the back of the chamber, where the blue lines converged into a small circle, I saw it. A message, half-rendered, hovering above a cracked stone platform. Data anchors failed. Remaining signatures absorbed by passive AI correction. Not deleted. Not banned. Folded. I stepped closer. My class interface shimmered. New entry unlocked. Ghost frame tag, you are now traceable by systems beyond standard player logs. This cannot be undone. I stood in silence. Even my echo faded. I didn't panic. Didn't log out. Just let the cold settle inside my chest. This wasn't punishment. This wasn't reward. It was placement. Like the system had found a drawer for me it forgot existed. And slid me into it. When I left the chamber, the door didn't close. It didn't need to. The game had already accepted that I was part of that place now. Later that evening, I passed a group of mid-level players near Oralis's training plaza. One of them glanced toward me. Then frowned. I swear I just saw. Never mind. They kept walking. I kept moving. No tags. No sound. But the floor still echoed beneath my steps. Like the chamber hadn't let go of me. I hadn't meant to find the event. The edge of Oralis bled into the hollowing fields, a windswept stretch of dry earth and half-buried ruins, mostly used for large-scale quests and faction skirmishes. I walked there sometimes. Not for loot. Just for silence. But today the silence wasn't mine. Explosions lit the ridge. Players, at least a dozen, scrambled across makeshift barricades, fighting to hold off waves of armored husks crawling from deep fractures in the field. A system banner floated above them. World event, break the hollow tide, 64% progress. I moved to higher ground. Watch. The formation was breaking. Tanks out of position. Casters being overwhelmed. Several players began shouting in chat. No coordination, no rally point. Just noise. They weren't going to make it, unless someone changed the pattern. I slipped down the hill without alert. No party request. No credit log. No aggro drawn. I didn't exist here. But the enemy still had backs. Veil step. Phantom reverb. Residual echo. My rhythm was clean. Every movement a breath between systems. I cut through their flanks, disabling the spawners from behind while leaving no mark. They never turned. They never learned. I wasn't a hero. I was a lever turned in the right direction. The players rallied without knowing why. The wave slowed. The caster stabilized. Victory came 6 minutes later in a roar of spells and cheers. Loot dropped. Rewards handed out. And I stood at the edge of the field, watching. No one thanked me. No one even knew I had moved. World event complete. Break the hollow tide. System notice. Contribution. Unrecorded. Then something else pinged. Echo path progression +1. Narrative flag added. Unnamed influence. Note, one system now remembers you. I walked away from the smoke. No glory. No gear. But somewhere a seed had been planted. Not among the players. In the world itself. Back in Orelise, as I passed the crafting square, 2 players argued near a bulletin board. I'm telling you, one said, someone helped. Something pulled aggro off my back mid-spell cast. No way. We had no support players left. Then how do you explain the spawner going dark right before the last surge? The second shrugged. Maybe an NPC assist. I kept walking. Their voices faded. That night, in the quiet corner of the inn where no light touched the floorboards, I opened my menu. A new passive waited. Silent influence. When acting untagged during public events, your class remembers the outcome. Players do not. I stared at the line. Then closed the menu. The echo behind me flickered once, then faded. I had fought without being seen. And for once I realized, I wasn't hiding. I was helping. Even if no one knew. The tavern near Oralis's northern quarter wasn't known for its music or its food. It was known for watching. Strategy guilds met there. Small ones. Not loud, not flashy. Just the type of players who spent more time studying maps than clearing dungeons. And tonight, someone watched from the back corner. Her name was Len. Not loud. Not famous. But respected in the way dry logs burn clean. She drank tea, not ale. Her guild tab read ratio, and she was known for running simulations on raid formations down to the second. She also had a folder open. Virtual. Custom UI. Inside, untagged screenshots from public events. Glitched heat maps from world boss logs. Mob behavior anomalies. And in each, a shadow. Not a person. A gap. I don't know who you are, she whispered. But I know what not seeing you looks like. Elsewhere, I walked the western arc of Orelise, where player housing stretched into quiet alleys and shops with gear no one used yet. I liked it there. No recruiters. No trading spam. Just a kind of half-emptiness that fit better than the crowds. But today something changed. A pair of players passed me chatting. One paused. Turned slightly. Not toward me. Toward my absence. Did you hear that? No, the other said. Just wind. They moved on. But the moment stuck with me. They couldn't see me. But they almost knew I was there. Like the world's awareness of me was starting to bleed. That night, back at the inn, I sat near the window watching the city's glow flicker across the cobblestones. My inbox chimed. Mayarke. You're being seen. That was all she wrote. No greeting. No follow-up. Just the truth gently placed. I closed the message. Didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. I opened my class menu. The echo layer shimmered, slower than before, like the system was hesitating. A new branch had appeared. Lock. No description. Just a symbol. 2 figures standing back to back, one clear, one fading. And beneath it, one line. This path opens when another trusts the echo. No stats. No quest. Just that. I leaned back. Closed my eyes. Didn't log out. Let the feeling settle. The world was shifting. Not because I pushed it, but because I walked quietly and the silence was starting to talk back. The world had changed again. A new patch dropped the night before, faction bounties, city siege countdowns, expanded auction mechanics. Orelise was humming. Banners waved from the walls. Recruiters shouted about defense points and faction glory. Even the shopkeepers were updating their inventories with relic tracker scrolls and siege-proof gear. I walked through it like mist through a crowded room. It wasn't that I didn't care. I just didn't feel the urgency. Maybe that's what made the silence feel heavier now. The system offered me a relic quest when I crossed the city's east gate. Event active, Echo Vault unearthed, time remaining, 5 hours 41 minutes. I dismissed it. The road forked there, left into the lowlands where the relic dig was staged and right into an old forest trail I remembered from a side quest I never finished. I turned right. The path was thinner than I remembered. Vines now coiled over its edges. Fallen leaves carpeted the ground in uneven waves. The wind stirred gently through the canopy, not as ambience, but as atmosphere. Like the forest remembered it had been forgotten. I didn't come looking for anyone, but someone was already there. Sitting at the base of a twisted tree, arms wrapped loosely around her knees, staff laid beside her. I stopped walking. She looked up. No surprise. Just recognition. "You're late," she said. I blinked. I didn't know I was coming. She smiled, small and tired. "You always come back to the places no one else stays long enough to name." I didn't respond. She stood slowly, brushing off her robe. "I'm not going to Orleans Gate tonight. I think I'm going to walk for a while. No destination." She started down the path behind her. Didn't look back. Didn't wait. Just walked. I stood there. So, I could have let her go. I always had. But my body moved before I asked it to. One foot forward. Then another. I followed. Not to catch up. Just to walk the same road. Not because she asked, but because the silence felt clearer near her. 10 steps in, the system pulsed gently in my interface. No sound. Just presence. Trust triggered. Class evolution path unlocked, Echo Veil Layer I. New passive gained, shared silence. If you walk beside someone who trusts you, you both remain untagged. I didn't react. Didn't smile. Didn't tell her. But when she glanced sideways and saw me still there, her expression didn't change. She just nodded. "What?" And we kept walking. No monsters came. No rewards dropped. No milestones flashed. Just two players in a forest the game forgot to remove. And the first step of something unspoken. Orleans never really rested. The buildings slept, but the people didn't. Even in the quiet wings of the city, torches flickered through the marble colonnades. Players adjusted gear on stone benches. Crafting circles spun in empty courtyards. And deep below, data pulsed in invisible veins the way blood moved beneath skin. I walked the library not for books, but for silence. That section of Orleans was built for lorehounds. A multi-level structure filled with in-game histories, NPC diaries, bestiary logs, and systems charts. Most of it was fluff. But the silence was real. And sometimes that's where the world said the most. I found the board by accident. Tucked in a half-hidden annex behind a collapsed statue wing. It wasn't glowing. It didn't display quest availability. Just a tall, flat slab of black wood, polished smooth and set against an unlit wall. No frame. No title. Players passed it without looking. Because it didn't respond. But when I approached, the air changed. Like something took a breath behind the wall. Then words appeared. "You should not be here." Pause. Then another line. "And yet." I raised my hand and placed it flat against the surface. No animation. No system beep. Just a gentle pull. Unregistered tag detected. Echo trace signature validated. Ghost line objective created. Track. Dust layers passage, location. Orally substructure, wing B7. That was all. The slab went dark again. But the faint impression of my handprint remained, just long enough for me to see it fade. The direction led below the city. Not into a dungeon. Not onto the map. Just down. Through old maintenance tunnels and half-loaded transition corridors, where the light no longer refreshed properly and footsteps echoed in double. I found the door by sound, not sight. It stood at the end of a hallway tiled in mismatched textures. Granite next to dirt, code-jointed bricks beside wooden paneling. As if the world forgot how this corridor was supposed to look. I stepped through. The room beyond was circular. Dust hung in the air, illuminated by a single shaft of light that didn't seem to come from anywhere. Benches lined the walls. Stone but smooth. And on the far side sat a machine, part interface, part altar. Its screen was blank. Its structure was rusted. But when I neared it, a line of text faded into view. "Hello." Then. "Do you remember what it feels like to be part of something no one sees?" I didn't answer. But the machine continued anyway. We do. Input not required. Presence confirmed. First ghost line thread. Witness 1 lost. A side panel opened. Inside a shard of glass. Unlabeled. I took it. The machine said nothing else. Back in the surface layers of Orelise, the world carried on. Raid announcements. Trading spam. Faction alerts. But as I passed the fountain at the center of the city's crossroads, a player looked toward me. Not at me. Just in the space where I had been standing. And said, "Did something just move?" I kept walking. In my hand the shard pulsed once, then went still.